Many years ago, back when my husband and I were still working in our labs, nerding around doing science, my brother, he would come by our apartment time and time again. He was a business student at Copenhagen Business School. And he would harass us about how it could be that we could spend so many hours in the lab and not come up with a single idea that he could help us found a biotech company on. This was back near 2000 when a lot of biotech companies were being started. Honestly, I also think he came by because our fridge was full of food. Okay, fair enough. But he had a point. We did spend a lot of time in the lab, and actually a lot of talk and a lot of dinners. We did find out that part of my husband's PhD project could probably be used as a starting point for a company. So that was what we did. We started a company based on stem cell technology for treating aggressive brain cancer. And we did it by writing up a business plan. We entered it into the first Venture Cup competition here in Denmark, and much to our own surprise, we actually won. So there you have my husband on the far left and my brother, who obviously hadn't been fed yet. He was very pissed off. And they're holding the big check. And that was the check that we used to start the company with. We quickly discovered that that was the easy part, because we were not going to get any investment unless we had a patent that secured the rights to the invention behind the whole basis of the company. So that is what I'm going to tell you today. That's at least one reason why patents are part of the future of life science. There is no future for life science without a patent. And during the process of writing up this patent application, we actually made a rather nasty discovery. It turned out that a former collaborator of my husband's had gone ahead and filed a patent application that covers something that she had actually not had any intellectual process in. She had not admitted it. It was my husband's. That meant that this company, Z-Gene, did not have freedom to operate initially. They did not have immediate market access. Fortunately, we had gone ahead and found some good patent attorneys at a company named Høiberg, and it took several years and a lot of negotiation, but finally we secured a method of getting through and having freedom to operate. And in that time, Z-Gene grew, moved out to Sion Business Park. There were 10 people, and I switched. I took a job as a patent attorney at Høiberg. And why did I do that? Why did I leave sexy science and go into dusty patent law? I did that because I got completely fascinated by patents. Patents are fascinating. This is an example of one of them. Because in principle, they're just a pile of paper. They look a lot like a scientific article, those you know pretty well. They have an introduction, there are some experiments, there's some data, there's a lot of blah blah in the middle. What's unique to patents are the claims. If you look at the left side, that's a patent claim. It's a single sentence. It's a single sentence that sums up years of hard and dedicated work from every one of you in here, or from Thomas for that matter, in one single sentence. And it has to be so crystal clear that somebody else can read it, understand it, and stay away from your invention. It's like playing Sudoku with words. Does anybody actually recognize this? This is the patent I'm holding here. It's 37 pages long. This is the patent. Sorry? Carmine? No? It actually comes with a blue color. It's Viagra. This is the patent that covers Viagra. This is more than $10 billion worth. This is a lot of money. I wish I wrote it. Also, patents are fascinating because of the many functions that they have. First and foremost, of course, they're made to keep other people away from your invention. That's point one. Point two is it's a sales document. Because the investors will not put the money into the companies unless you have these rights. But the investors also have to be able to at least understand part of it. So it has to be written in a way that's so comprehensive that complex science becomes understandable and sellable, so that the investors fall in love with the great idea and all the promise that it holds. It also has to be so comprehensive that a person with, only a legal education, sitting as a judge in a court anywhere in the world, can at least understand the basic concepts of this in the event that you want to enforce your rights that are held within this patent. You get a time-limited monopoly, typically 21 years, for medicine up to 26 years, where you can keep other people away from what it is that you've patented. And if there's only one thing you're going to remember from all my blah, blah about patents, remember that. A patent is a right to keep other people away from what you're doing. It is not an automatic right to exploit your own invention. That was what we discovered in Zhejiang. There might be a dominating right. All the system sounds pretty fancy, right? And pretty modern. And the reason why it has to be that you can write or understand what it is that what you've done in your own patent is that the contract that you're getting for this monopoly is that other people have to be able to read and see what it is that you're doing. That's the basis for the technological advancement that is the idea behind the patent system. Then also it has to be novel. And to all you people here, I could see that a lot of you were master's students, PhD students, and postdocs. In my world, it's called publish and perish, okay? If you go out and publish your findings, you cannot patent it because it has to be novel. The invention cannot have been described anywhere else. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. You won't get a patent right. You won't get funding for your company. So please remember that. Also, you have to have what's known as inventive step. Slightly complicated. I'll help you with that. Basically means that your invention has to be pretty far removed from what was known at the time we filed your patent application. And then we come down to the enablement. You have to have a demonstration that you actually held the invention in your hand at the time of filing, or at least within the first 12 months. So you have to have a little bit of data. You're working with life science. Obviously, you cannot have the little blue pill in your hand by the time you write up the patent application because it takes a lot of years to go through the clinical trials. But some sort of data, preferably in vitro, even better if you have a mouse model or something, but any kind of data is required. And I only need one copy. A little bit sticky, I know, for scientists, but no positive controls, no negative controls, just one example is fine. Okay, this might sound a little bit complicated, but really, truly, it's not. Because all you have to do is call me. That's simple. All you guys sitting here have probably at some point in your time thought, I have a great idea. What do I do now? Well, what you do is, if you're at the university, you contact your tech transfer office first and foremost. They'll call me. If you're out on your own, just call me directly. We'll set up a meeting. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a very creative meeting. Because you get to tell me everything about what it is that you've invented. That's always fun. And then I get to do my favorite part. I get to ask you about 100 silly questions. Because I need to understand everything that you're thinking about. I need to understand every little aspect of your invention. What's it made of? What are you going to do with it? What people are going to treat with it, if it's a medicine. Where do you imagine you're going to be producing this? Where do you imagine you're going to market it? And the best questions are, have you thought of? Have you thought of alternative uses? Have you thought about this and that? And there will be, I guarantee you, at least one aha moment. And this is my favorite part, because I speak with some really, really bright people every single day. And giving these bright people an aha moment, that's fantastic. Once we've had that discussion, and I found out what your invention actually is about, and I do ask all these questions because I need to be able to formulate a single sentence based on all that fuzz coming out of your brains. Then I go back and I do a search in a database of databases. I kid you not, this is pretty complicated. We do a lot of searches, and then if we find out that you've actually upheld all the requirements for the patent, and if it's commercially sound, if it makes sense financially, then we'll recommend you to file a patent application. And we'll recommend you that you do that fast. Because we have experience from many, many years of working with this, that it is surprising how often a great idea happens more or less at the same time in different places in the world. Go ahead, do it fast. Then, of course, we'll file it. The magic happens. All the text and blah, blah becomes a legally binding document. This is a typical scenario for filing a patent application within the life science field. We file it, you can come with additional data within the first year, and after 12 months, we file an international patent application. After 18 months, it's published. In the meantime, the procedures go on where the authorities go in and they do their own search and come back and say, nah, it's not novel, it's not inventive, and you might think that these examiners sitting at the patent offices are some sort of slime that live under stones somewhere because they're really nasty sometimes, but they're not. They're just doing what they're supposed to be doing, making sure that the contract that you ultimately get is a valid contract. Think about it. You get a monopoly It's very rare that anybody gets granted a monopoly by any sort of state, but you get that, then it also has to be valid. That's why they're pretty conscious about their work. I'll need some input from you in order to answer some of these office actions along the way. You'll have to decide after 2.5 years where it is you want to go. That is a hugely expensive process, so make sure you speak with the investors very, very quickly on in this process. And then it continues, a little bit more examination, and finally we get to the grant. And then your right can last, as I said, up to 21 years or 26 if it's a medicament. Now, what can you actually patent? You can patent health apps, like we're just hearing about. You can actually patent software as long as it has technical use. Not many people know that. You can patent the cure for cancer, like Z-Gene did, at least one type of cure for cancer. And some of the products that some of our clients come in with, you can actually also patent. You can patent the world's best tasting beer. You can also patent a drill bit. You think this might be known, but that drill bit was made by 3D printing technology, 3D metal printing technology. You can patent a device that gives you a great body. You can patent a bee patch. It's a device made on the common household remedy of putting sugar on a bee sting. It will suck out all the toxins. And you can also patent diagnostic kits that will tell you whether or not you have a disease, at least in some countries, because you can no longer patent diagnostic kits in the US. You cannot patent genes that you isolate directly from human beings. You can isolate or patent genes as long as they have a technical use, a genetic sequence. And why is it that suddenly some things you cannot patent anymore? It's because there is an anti-patent trend going on through the world. Fine by that. And why is that? Why is it we have this patent system that makes some companies capable of making oodles and oodles of money? I mean, Pfizer, they really scored on this. That was a blockbuster that was amazing. What if we just gave up on the patent system? What if we just left it all so that everybody could go and grab the good ideas? Wouldn't that be a much richer society? Wouldn't it be so much better? I mean, personally, I'm all for that. Open source, patent pools, all this. Leaving it alone, however, that doesn't make sense. But why doesn't this make sense? I mean, we just heard about some big companies that are going out and said, we're going to drop our rights. Tesla, the manufacturers of the very fancy electrical car, they recently went out and said, we're not going to enforce the rights, we're going to drop the patent for a car battery. That's a bit surprising. GSK, very large pharmaceutical company, went out just about a month ago and got a lot of positive PR on the fact that they said, we're not going to enforce our rights in very poor countries anymore. And the countries that have just a little bit of BNP, we're going to give them some very, very lenient license agreements. The rest of us suckers are going to have to pay for it. Fine enough. I don't mind. So why is it that I say that this doesn't make sense? What Tesla and GSK are doing makes a lot of sense. Please remember that. For Tesla, dropping the battery patent makes a heck of a lot of sense, because there's only one place in the whole world you can produce that battery. That's at Tesla's own factory. You should not have patents just to have patents. You should have patents when they make sense. It doesn't make sense for Tesla to have a battery patent, because they decide who gets to make bloody batteries. And as for GSK, they have gotten an enormous amount of positive PR on something that pharmaceutical companies have been doing for decades. I'm very impressed by their PR division. You do not go out and have patents in countries where you cannot enforce your rights. Of course you don't. You do not go out and ask for hugely expensive license agreements if people cannot pay. So they're just doing what makes common sense. So why is it that I say that dropping the patent system completely does not make sense? Because if you do that, if you go out and actually have the cure for cancer, and you publish that in Nature or Science or wherever it is you do it, there's not going to be a single investor who's going to pick up your great idea and promote it and make a product out of it and put it on the market to the benefit of people. And why not? Well, Kirsten gave us the answer. It costs 10 billion Danish kroner to develop a drug and put it out on the market. Nobody's going to do that if they cannot get a return on that enormous investment. You need that. So you need the patents. That's why patents are part of the future. We discovered that years ago in Z-Gene. And what actually happened with Z-Gene was a bit sad story. It folded after the financial crisis. But we had 10 years of really good fun. We got pretty wise in the process, I'd rather say. My brother, he's still running around starting up things in New Zealand and Singapore. I don't see him that much, but I think that's mainly because he has a girlfriend who's an excellent cook. And my husband, he went from being a big boss in a small company to being a smaller boss in a huge company. He works in Carlsberg today, brewing new beer. You might think he has the most desired job in the world, developing new beer. He doesn't. I do. I have the best job in the world. I've been with Høiberg for over 10 years now. Feels like 20 once in a while. But over 10 years now. And the CEO I've been for a little bit over a year. And I love my job because I get to see the future every single day.